Many men and women suffer migraine. Oh boy, and I suffered migraine. I had migraine as a child, and they were severe. They were so severe, and a lot of you probably can identify with that. I hugged the toilet, and it was the only relief that I could find. And pain medication will escalate your pain eventually. So I took pain medication for 1 year and realized that my migraines just took off and was unbearable. So I stopped. And I suffered that every day for 3 years. So I definitely know what you're suffering if you have migraine. And it is a total body pain. It is, of course, a gastrointestinal problem. It could be allergies. It's a mix of stress. It's a mix of hormones. You know, it's a total body problem. So how do we deal with that? Well, for me, for example, when I dealt with my PMS, I dealt with my migraines. They both walked out the door at the same time. And so hormones was a big deal. And sometimes you do need some bioidentical specialists to help you through that. And sugar is huge. Sugar really set it off for me. And allergies like gluten, dairy set it off. And it took a long time for me to see what did it. Because I would eat it, get a migraine, but then I didn't know because I had everything. If I had everything in that meal, I wouldn't know what it was. And finally, I took sugar out, and I took dairy out, and I took gluten out. And then I got on the raw food program. That really did it, because in the raw vegan program, I don't have it. A lot of you might still have gluten, and that's gotta go. So, because gluten is so destructive for your gastrointestinal tract, it just rips your small intestine up. So it creates a lot of problems for you. And I tell you, it's pain medication. There are natural pain medication like white willow. And so you could go and get white willow and use that as your new pain medication, because you're just going to need stronger and stronger medication. It is it's not healing you, it's just suppressing, you know, the pain. But where did that pain come? It's your body screaming to you, saying, you better change. I am in unbalance. There is a terrible unbalance in your body when you get even a headache. But migraines, of course, is so much more traumatic. And, you know, so many people have got out of that stress and pain through the Life Food program. But, you know, we work also psychologically. Every guest that comes to our place works with a psychologist that is trained. Every guest that comes through our program have consultation with our psychologist. And you know, it's just amazing what happens when we have that chance to really share with somebody that is trained to help us and to guide us. And so that is definitely an advice too, because anybody with migraines knows that if I did feel good, but if I went into a very stressful situation, I would get a migraine because my body was just not strong enough. It wasn't healed. And that's when I would set it off. So we can talk about sugar all day long because we all are sugar addicts. And, you know, and it takes a long time to really get rid of all the sugars in your life. You know, I'm really passionate about weight loss and teaching people about weight loss, because so many people go to pseudo weight loss programs that are really pathetic in a way, because it doesn't take you out of a lifestyle that got you there. It kind of just, you know, moves you a little bit, so you lose some and then you gain double. it's a problem because I need to change, especially the sugars and the fats that I get in my diet. You know, there's a lot of fats. In the early 1900s, we changed a lot about the fats. We started to make hydrogenated oils, and they can stay on the shelf forever and ever. So we were taught that these are good. We were taught that margarine is better than butter, you know, and it just went on and on and on. So all of us went on that, and that kind of fat is very, very hard for us to digest. It's different size molecules even. So our body's like, who are you know? And it's a problem because we got into that, and in 1970s, we took the fat and the fiber out of food so we could also have them on the shelves. And we added sugar. So we've got sugar in so many ways, and we got bad fats. And, you know, and the low-fat milk came, and low-fat did, and this and that, and yogurt, and, you know, when you take the process to take fats out and accumulate a different chemistry, you're going to pay for that. You know, it's really been horrendous. I'm not proposing to drink whole milk, but I think milk is for a calf. I think mother's milk is for my babies, like I have nursed. So I'm not proposing that, but we all went on that. And, you know, I remember that came in my time when I still drank milk and butter, and it was like, whoa, let's go on this. And it was an industry, it was corporations that just got us to eat different. And it was a global experiment that went bad, and we're still in it. And so we need to step out of that and say, you know, how do I get rid of sugar? Because it's in so many foods that I eat. Well, I can start by getting my beans dry, for example. So now I soak my beans, and I can sprout them. If I soak them in a little bowl or fill it with water, let it sit overnight, and then I can strain it in like a spaghetti strainer, and I can rinse it twice a day, and I actually can sprout. When you germinate, you bring actually protein down to amino acid, fat to fatty acid, carbs to simple sugars. Now, these are not sugars that was the white sugar. And this is like baby food. I say anybody who has gastrointestinal problem, these are the foods you can eat. And, you know, because a lot of people with gastrointestinal problem are told you can't eat raw food. Sprouted foods is like baby food for you. So you can do that. And even if I cook those beans, then they are mine. And I know what I put in it. And I'm not going to put sugar in there. Maybe I put some Mexican spices, Indian spices, you know. And we stay out of salt. You know, salt is another problem that we use far, far too much. And, you know, if I have imbalance of salt and sugar, for example, every cell in your body has a motor, and that is potassium and sodium. And you can start seeing then that you actually are leaking out potassium from your system. And now you could get urinary tract problems. Like a lot of women have problems with UTIs, and you know, and sometimes they come and go all the time. When I have stress or I have sex, or I'm very acidic. If everything I ate, let's say I drank a lot of coffee and wine, and I'm going to be very, very acidic, that's when bacteria appears again. Because even though I did a treatment with antibiotic, bacteria has been so smart now, it actually burrows itself into tissue and survives. And then whenever there is a time to come back, here we are. So how do I deal with that, for example? And that's not just the sodium-potassium imbalance, that is the acidity in my body and my stress. But how do I get rid of that bacteria? Because why would it survive an antibiotic? Well, because I didn't change lifestyle. I didn't change anything at the same time. I probably just went back to all the stress that I had immediately. And so I get you on for example, juicing. So now we make juices, and our juice doesn't have any sugar. It doesn't have the carrots, it doesn't have the apples, and and it's not the smoothies where I put vegetables and fruits together that taste so wonderful. No, I make it green. It's very green, and it's like our juice. If you've seen sunflower, the sunflower grows, of course, have thousands of seeds on it. And if I take it very young, when it's 7 days grown, then it's an amazing food, complete amino acid, loaded with vitamin C, vitamin E, and you name it. And I put like 40% of my juice will be a big bunch then of sunflower sprouts. And here we use pea sprouts, and you can use other sprouts too. And then we have some celery and cucumber, great diuretic, great nourishment. And so I make it very green. I could put dandelions in there, parsley. I can put any leafy greens. I sometimes, if I'm in Europe, I put nettles. I put the little green shoots from the pine trees. I take maybe leaves from birch trees, and whatever I can find. So there are a lot of edible things that I can put in a juice if I don't have everything available. And in every country, you have different things that works. So, make it green and nourish your body, because that's like a blood transfusion. There's only one molecular difference from your chlorophyll or your hemoglobin and chlorophyll. Your hemoglobin is carried by iron, and chlorophyll is carried by manganese. It's the only difference. So you're drinking that. I mean, I can see if you come, for example, with, let's say, cancer or breast cancer or colon cancer, liver cancer, you name it, and you want to rejuvenate, then you start drinking these juices. And because a lot of times you've had a lot of medical treatments, and your blood count is low, your white and red blood cells are just working their tail off to come back, and this is going to help it big time. And we stay as much raw as you can, and you choose foods that are organic. Now we have also radiated food. A lot of foods are being radiated because it kills E. coli and salmonella, but it also kills the food. Everything in life has to divide. There's cell division all the time, and we do every cell, and radiation stops cell division. So think about that when you buy organic. You do yourself such a good favor, and you stay out of pesticides, fertilizers. All these things change your DNA, and DNA is very, very easy to change. So you want to keep healthy. And so what if I have fibromyalgia? So my body's aching from top to toe, and I want to see what can be done, because usually I'm on heavy medication for my pain, anti-inflammatory, you name it, and it's escalating. And just like arthritis, what do I want to do? How can I really work with this tendon, this tissue, this joint problem? I want to be on a very alkaline diet. I want to neutralize the acidity that was a big part of my inflammation. I want to work emotionally, because there's always that stress that is a huge part of why things happen in my body. And I want to exercise whatever I can. If there's a pool, now fortunately most pools have chlorine, which is horrendous because it's not needed. We could use ozone, we could use minerals that actually becomes chlorine, and but it's not synthetic chlorine, and anybody could have this. A great story, one of our guests here in Florida, she said it took 5 years because she lives in a big community, but after 5 years the community agreed to do what we're doing at our institute, of just ozone that kills any virus, bacteria, because it's oxygen really, and just use minerals. And so hopefully we can have that everywhere too. But if you don't have that, at least twice a week, you go in the pool and you exercise. And you have a sauna after that, because I want to sweat out as much of that chlorine that I absorbed before, and you always take a shower before you go in to the chlorine pool too, so that you will absorb a little bit less. But then you shower and you take a good sauna and you sit and sweat it out. So, there are things we can do. And then, of course, walking. We are on two legs. We are long limbs. We have this big head, and we're supposed to walk. We were really created to walk miles and miles every day. That's how we were created. So most of us sit on our butt all day. It's a big problem. And we create diseases just from that. So start walking morning and evening. Get it into your schedule. If you can go to the gym or if you can get weights at home, you realize that when I put weight on my muscles and bones, they start growing. So the more weight I put on, I start low, but then after a while my body gets bored with it, and then it wants more and more. And I make my bones stronger. So a lot of, especially women, because we have less bone mass than men, we get osteoporosis. And I meet women that have been told they have osteoporosis at 30. This is just crazy now. Normally in the old days, maybe it was at 70 or 80 that it started to show up. It is showing up much, much earlier now. Like most problems, actually most diseases are starting much, much earlier now with the younger generation. And things that we would see normally at 70, 80, like diabetes, like arthritis, like cancer, you name it. It's starting now at very, very early age. And that is one of the biggest heartbreaks that we have at the Institute. We see 3-year-old, 7-year-old, 11-year-old with cancer that are fighting for their life. And, this was unheard of. And it is lifestyle. It is what we've done to the environment, but it is also what we bought into from corporations. So even young girls now start their menstruation at 7 or 8. I mean, it's unheard of. And that's growth hormones. The meat we've been eating, the dairy we've been drinking, full of these growth hormones. Antibiotics in those amounts that animals have been given is another carcinogen. So, it's a big part of why we also get sick very, very young. We've been fed the wrong things. The thing is, I also meet people that have been trying to live a very, very healthy lifestyle. Now we have fracking. Fracking goes into our groundwater. Our water, the only pure water that I give my kids was and is distilled water. It's really the only pure water, because now with all pesticides and fertilizers and anything that's coming down, our rainwater was supposed to be the purest. We're supposed to be able to drink that water, and because nature distilled it. But it's coming down with so much salt and chemicals and metals that it's coming into our system when we're drinking let's say our well water that we always trusted our well water was going to be good. No, now we're in a time where we need to purify that water before we drink it. And a lot of people are hesitant about that because, our own water should be good. And obviously, the minerals that are in water are inorganic. It takes a plant to take that to give to you. So you don't lose anything by doing distilled water. But the deal is that to buy water on bottles in the long run, you're going to bring them home in plastic. And that is another estrogen source. So we've been bombarded with estrogen through the meats, fish, dairy, chicken, we've been bombarded with it. And if I buy water in a bottle too, a plastic bottle, I'm going to have even more. So that is another carcinogen that I'm building up. So a good thing would be to get your own machine, whatever purifier you prefer, but really study it and get something that will be for you, with you for years to come, you know. So we chose distilling, and that's what we've done for for the last like 40 years. And it's just been a great source. We get minerals from plants. That's where we're gonna get them from. So we're juicing, we're eating raw, we're getting our minerals. But the minerals in water are inorganic. You cannot digest them, and they're for a plant to give to you. You know, that's how it really works. So watch, now there's organic meat. So a lot of you might say, well, okay, I can get organic meat. That is really not the way to go, because there's still estrogen, there's still hormones and chemicals that you are going to ingest. Let's say they didn't get growth hormones, but let's say they didn't get antibiotic. It is still harmful, really. It's really harmful. And what I see is that we have degenerated our systems through the generations. And it takes 3 generations to really mess up. And it's going to take at least 3 generations to get our children and grandchildren, great-grandchildren, to be really strong and healthy. And it's a work that we need to do. And now studies are coming up about what the world would look like if we all became vegan, and the money we would save, the healthcare we would save, it's like unbelievable. And as long as I'm eating meat, I am a huge part of the environmental disaster that we have. That is the biggest part of an environmental, the greenhouse effect, you name it. The animal consumption is the biggest part, bigger than all the cars and planes and trucks and all. Bigger than that is me eating meat. Can you imagine? So if I want to be a part of the environment healing, then I become a vegan, vegetarian. So there's a lot of great studies, a lot of things coming up. And World Health Organization now came out and said meat consumption is not sustainable. We're not going to be able to do it. And so things are changing.